Prahlada Maharaj from recorded lectures of Srila Prabhupada. And I developed a particular appreciation for him. I would say he became like a role model or a hero. And during that same summer, by Krishna's mercy and everybody's efforts, there was a small booklet, Teachings of Prahlada Maharaj, which just astounded me that somehow Prabhupada and Krishna knew that he was a hero for me. So I read it again and again and distribute many of them. And some years later, I dove deeply into the prayers of Prahlada Maharaj, and I'm very honored to speak on them here. This is the last prayer in chapter 9. There's some additional prayers in chapter 10. This prayer, I don't know, have you been reading the Sanskrit in verse and purport when you do these presentations? How you've been conducting it?
Maharaj, I think it's a preference. Some speakers, they read the Sanskrit and they read the word-by-word transliteration and the synonyms, and then they read the translation. But not everybody could repeat, but the speaker he went through the verse.
Okay. I happen to have the book right here.
Okay.
These are prayers to pacify Lord Nrsingadev, because he was requested to do that by the demigods. And he concludes with this prayer. I'll just read the translation. Therefore, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all persons to whom prayers are offered, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because, without rendering 6 kinds of devotional service unto you, and he lists 6 kinds, offering prayers, dedicating all the results of activities, worshiping you, working on your behalf, always remembering your lotus feet, and hearing about your glories, who can achieve that which is meant for the Paramahamsas? And very interesting purport. It seems to contradict the verse. The Vedas enjoin, Nayam Atma Paramahamsena, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhya Na Medhaya No Na Bahuna Shrutena. Let me try it again. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo Na Medhya Na Bahuna Shrutena. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by studying the Vedas and offering prayers. And note, in the categories of devotional service, offering prayers is one. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by studying the Vedas and offering prayers. Only by the grace of the Supreme Lord can one understand him. The process of understanding the Lord, therefore, is bhakti. Without bhakti, simply following the Vedic injunctions to understand the absolute truth will not be helpful at all. The process of bhakti is understood by the Paramahamsa, one who has accepted the essence of everything. The results of bhakti are reserved for such a Paramahamsa, and this stage cannot be obtained by any Vedic process other than devotional service. Other processes, such as jnana and yoga, can be successful only when mixed with bhakti. When we speak of jnana yoga, karma yoga, and jnana yoga, the word yoga indicates bhakti. Bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, executed with intelligence and full knowledge, is the only successful method for going back home, back to Godhead. If one wants to be liberated from the pangs of material existence, you should take to devotional service for quick attainment of this goal. Final verse. And what's the goal and the means to attain it? In the next chapter, which is chapter 10, one of the prayers that Prahlad, after Prahlad's prayers, Lord Nrsingadev offers Prahlad benedictions, and then Prahlad responds, beginning of chapter 10. And one of those verses, text 3 of chapter 10, Prahlad reveals of something very important. He says that Lord Nrsingadev, or Lord Vishnu, has sent Prahlad to this material world to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee. The symptoms of a pure devotee is the same as the Paramahamsa, that is, the essence of everything beneficial, everything uplifting, everything that brings one to the goal. Shreya Uttama. In the verse, Prahlad is offering the means to get there, and it's the processes of bhakti. He's identifying 6. Commonly, we're used to hearing there's 9 processes of bhakti, and that list of 9 is different than the list of 6, not only in number, but the content, some similarity, some difference. The list of 6 found in the verse, ones that are similar, offering prayers. Those of you that like to read Prabhupada's books, you know that Akrura achieved perfection by offering prayers. And worship, Archana, is mentioned in the Bhagavatam as one of the 9 processes. Here it's Puja. King Prithu achieved perfection that way. Prahlad Maharaj achieved perfection by always remembering. That's one of the 9 processes. Here it's Smriti Charanayo. Hearing, Maharaj Parikshit achieved perfection by hearing. Shravanam Katayam. So 4 of the 9 are found in this list. There's 2 others in this list of 6. Dedicating all the results of activities. Sounds like Varnashram or Daivi Varnashram. Perform prescribed duties with the fruits offered to Krishna. Here it's Karma Puja. And working on your behalf, karma, working on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like Karma Yoga. So there's others in the list of 9, but what I want to do especially is point out that one of these items in the standard bhakti process, in fact, the whole of the bhakti process begins with hearing, Shravanam, and Kirtanam. But this verse that Prabhupada quotes in the first line of the purport is a verse from the Upanishads, Manduka Upanishad and, Mundaka Upanishad and Katha Upanishad, exact same verse. Only part of it is quoted in this purport. So I'll read the whole thing. Well, the Sanskrit, the first two lines. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo Na Medhaya Na Bahuna Shrutena. The translation. The Supreme Lord is not attained by expert explanations. That's pravachanena. One can say, kirtan, what Shukadeva Goswami was doing. Shravanam kirtanam, speaking the message of transcendence. By vast intelligence, nor even by much hearing. That's right in the shrutena, the hearing process. Not by much hearing. Now we're encouraged to hear much, qualitatively and quantitatively, hear and hear and hear. Hear the mantra, hear the message of the Bhagavatam, hear the glories of the Lord. Emphasis upon hearing is really strong in the Bhagavad Dharma process. But this verse that is being cited by Prabhupada is not even by much hearing that the Lord can be attained. So that's the do not. Then comes to how he can be attained. He is attained only by one who he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. Sounds a little contradictory, right? The processes of Bhagavad Dharma must be performed, and they're not sufficient. Even by much hearing, not sufficient to attain the Lord. So there's some qualifiers. And the main qualifier is revealed in the purport, that's bhakti. And the Paramahamsa, right in the purport, Paramahamsa's definition is one who has accepted the essence of everything. One who has accepted the essence of everything. So what's the essence of everything? And there's the essence of everything is Krishna. And the bhakti process is not different than Krishna, so one can say the bhakti process is also everything. It's the essence of everything. It's the essence of the living entity. The essence of a living entity is service, and service in its essence form is service to the personality of Godhead. The essence of the bhakti process is to please Krishna. Here's a little nectar of devotion message on the same topic. Same point, just using different language. Rupa Goswami gives us Hari Bhasa Sutra, the principal verse of the whole nectar devotion that governs the whole nectar devotion. That is the definition of bhakti. What bhakti is not, the secondary characteristics of bhakti is that it's not karma and it's not gyan. The essence of bhakti is anukulyena krishnanushilanam. What the goal of bhakti is exclusive. It's acceptance of one thing, Krishna. And the process is letting go of other things, karma and gyan. But those are secondary. The primary, upon which the secondary rest, is anukulyena, the intention to please Krishna. The processes of bhakti are meant to awaken the intention to please Krishna, which is the essence of bhakti. The behaviors, the activities let's say, in puja or worship. With puja, there's procedure. There's mantras, there's mudras, there's lamps, there's incense, there's bells, there's procedure. We don't ignore procedure, but the procedure is not the essence. The essence is bhakti. And the procedures are meant in practice by sadhana to awaken bhakti. The activities of bhakti are meant to awaken bhakti. And the essence, the Paramahamsa knows the essence, bhakti. And so the Paramahamsa can attain this reference from the Upanishads. That person who knows the essence of everything is bhakti. They can attain Krishna. And how do you attain Krishna? Well, Krishna sees the bhakti and Krishna discloses himself to that bhakta. There's a wonderful passage in the 10th canto, chapter 28, Srimad Bhagavatam. It goes like this, chapter 28 comes after 27. And 27 is Indra's prayers after the Govardhan Leela. Surabhi offers prayers, Indra offers prayers, and Krishna excuses him. The Acharyas say, after Sukadeva Goswami narrates Indra making his boo-boo and offering apologies to Krishna, it inspires the spontaneous bhakti of Sukadeva to narrate a similar, different but similar incident where Varuna made a mistake and offended Nanda Maharaj. I'll just narrate the Leela because it's very sweet. All of Krishna's pastimes are sweet, but it illustrates this point, this bhakti point. Nanda and the cowherds of Braja, they observe Ekadasi. They're not obliged to do anything. They're on the platform of Prema Bhakti. Nonetheless, they observe rituals, not the externals, but the essence of rituals. So because it was Ekadasi day on the Dwadasi morning, one is to break the fast on the Dwadasi morning. And there's rules about when you're supposed to break and when you're not supposed to break. So on that particular Ekadasi, the solar day, which is 24 hours, didn't match the lunar day, which was, in that particular case, it was 16 hours, a big 8-hour difference. So the lunar day was ending before the sun rose the next morning. Now, Nanda Maharaj knew the rule that he had to break Ekadasi at the proper time. So he went to take bath in the Jamuna with other cowherds in order to then come back out of the river still before the sun came up and break the fast at the proper time. He didn't make a mistake. But the agent of Varuna thought he made a mistake. And so he made the mistake of kidnapping Nanda. And when Nanda didn't come back out of the river, the elders who were accompanying Nanda, they cried out loudly, "Nanda Maharaj!" And Krishna heard. Krishna came at once, they explained. Krishna entered the river Jamuna, and it doesn't say exactly what technology he used. It speaks of a hole. He entered a hole, and he went to the abode of Varuna. And at the abode of Varuna, he then also saw in the distance was his father. But as soon as Varuna saw him, two things quickly. The opulence of the heavenly kingdom, Varuna's kingdom, has opulence unlike anything of this world. And Nanda had seen that. And Nanda also saw Varuna get off his throne offer a seat of respect to Krishna and worshipped Krishna with great opulence with all of his associates. Begged his pardon, as Indra had done in the previous chapter. Krishna not only forgave him, but he smiled because he didn't do the same thing that Indra did. And he accepted the invitation of Varuna to take his father back. So he took his father back. The sun had still not risen, so it happened rather quickly. And Nanda and the others, they observed the Dwadasi, breaking the fast. And then that morning, they had a little conversation, like they had after the Govardhan Lila, the previous chapters. Who is he? And they reached a conclusion, he's Narayan. He's not just empowered, like Gargamuni had said, with potencies like Narayan, as powerful as Narayan, he's Narayan. At least for a few moments, they had that contemplation. And then in their heart of hearts, they had a bhakti desire. Of course, all their desires are bhakti, but they wanted to see the abode of Krishna, his eternal abode. And the language of the verse is Vaikuntha and Brahman, because they knew that the abode of the Supreme Lord is in the spiritual realm. So Krishna understood their desires. Krishna wanted to fulfill their desires. So just like this reference from the Upanishad says, Krishna desired to show them his Goloka abode, his Aprakat Lila realm. So he did it. He did it in a very interesting way. He took them to the same place, Brahma Hrida, or Radha, where Akrura saw what Akrura saw when taking Krishna and Balaram from Vrindavan to Mathura. They were immersed in the lake. Radha means lake. And Krishna then lifted them out of the lake. And when he lifted them out of the lake, they saw Goloka. And in Goloka, they saw Krishna in his spiritual form. They saw themselves identified as themselves. They didn't see the other residents of Braja, just themselves. And they saw the personified Vedas worshiping Krishna with prayers. And then the curtain of Yogamaya closed. Goloka was no longer visible. They forgot everything that they had seen. The comparison is given to just like a man who's, when sleeping, he's having a dream, and shortly after he wakes up, he forgets the dream. Even if he tries to remember the dream, only faint memory, and after some time, it's just a dream. It's of no consequence. That's what happened for them. Instead of Mahamaya, it was Yogamaya. And they forgot everything. But they had seen what Krishna they had desired to see, the abode of Krishna, and would their destination be there? They saw their destination is there. In his Aprakat Lila, the eternal associates of Krishna are there. And Bhakti-Vinod Thakur discusses that amongst those who are Krishna's associates, there's the eternal and perfect, Nitya Siddha Bhaktas. And there's those that are being trained by the Nitya Siddha Bhaktas. That's persons who become perfect through sadhana Siddha Bhaktas. So we're doing sadhana, and maybe someday we'll become sadhana Siddha. And how do you become sadhana Siddha? Well, you have to follow the Paramahamsas. And Prahlada Maharaj is one such Paramahamsa. So it's a fantastic topic that has been chosen for your Memorial Day weekend seminar, going through the prayers of Prahlada. There's a very nice 2-sentence long statement about Prahlada and his prayers that comes in the chapter summary at the beginning of chapter 6. which is the beginning section of Prahlad's prayers. He is instructing his classmates in that chapter. And Prabhupada says something very similar to what Prahlad says in that third verse of chapter 10, where just by hearing the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, one can learn the mood of pure devotional service. And one who can enter into that mood of Prahlad Maharaj, the mood of pure devotional service, then one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At least there's some eligibility. And who is eligible, who is ineligible? Well, ultimately, Krishna wants to show himself. Anyone is eligible. But commonly, Krishna only shows himself to those who have genuine bhakti. So that's our life project. Follow the Paramahansa Prahlad Maharaj, who came to this world to teach the way of pure devotional service. And when that pure devotional service is attained, the teaching says, of course, it's dependent upon Krishna, but one can then see Krishna everywhere at all times. Where your attachment goes, that's where your attention goes. And where your attention is always going to Krishna, he reciprocates accordingly. Now, and the section about Varuna and the cowherd men seeing Goloka, it's explicitly explained. It's not like they saw Goloka all the time. Otherwise, why did they want to see it? Or we would hear that they saw it all the time. They saw it because Krishna revealed it to them. And Krishna revealed it to them because of their pure devotion. And he loves, his happiness is fulfilling the desires of his pure devotees. But his pure devotees don't have material desire. They don't even engage in activity simply for the sake of purification like we do. They're not sadhakas. We engage in devotional service for purification purposes. And hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as we're doing just now, hearing the prayers of Prahlad, that's devotional service. That's Shravanam. Or the verse that's quoted in the purport is Shrutena. Shrutena in the word for word, by hearing. We're certainly encouraged to hear name, fame, quality, pastimes, and glories of the personality of Godhead, and hear abundantly. Now, again, the point of the purport, the point of bringing this particular reference from the Upanishads up in the purport is, it's not just by offering abundant prayers or abundant hearing. We want to offer prayers. We want to engage in the processes of bhakti, but it's not just the behavior. Ring a bell and offer some incense. It's not the behavior, or recite some prayers, and it's not just the behavior. Behaviors are fine. They're also purifying. But the essence is not the prayer or the incense or the bell. The essence is bhakti. And what's the essence of bhakti? For the pleasure of Krishna. And the activities of bhakti are meant to awaken that, but without awakening for the pleasure of Krishna, bhakti, then, as Prabhupada writes, it's a waste of time. That is to say, the goal is not reached. There's nothing lost. Not a waste. But the goal is not reached. How to reach the goal? Awaken bhakti. And that is, so we should focus on, Prahlad wants to teach us that we should focus on wanting to please Krishna. He's offering prayers. He engaged in hearing from Narada Muni. Narada Muni instructed Prahlad to engage in worship, which is one of the items of the 6 activities of devotional service listed in this prayer. But now we don't do those things. But those things are not the essence. Those things help us get to the essence. The essence is bhakti. Bhakti is not different from Krishna. And when we get there to the essence of wanting to please Krishna, we become eligible to understand Krishna. And progressively, Krishna reveals himself to the person who has that eligibility and that inclination that becomes awakened by the bhakti process. It's a really fantastic way to end his prayers. And usually with settings like this, there's a bunch of questions. I see some chats. I see a number of people online, the participants. So if the participants want to ask some questions, please do so. And I think I'm going to go to the chat section. Is that how I do it? Go to the chat section?
Either way, Maharaj. Either some devotees can raise their hands or they can type in the chat.
Well, let's go to the chat because they were already triggered.
Okay.
Prahlad, so here's the question from Kaushik. Prahlad says, you have sent me to this material world to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee. That's the statement. But whenever I hear devotee lectures, we say, I am an aspiring devotee. Why is there a difference? Why does Prahlad think of himself as a pure devotee? Well, you read earlier and he says, I'm not qualified, I'm born in a demoniac family, I have no qualification, I have only disqualification. He knows the mood of humility inside and out. So to say qualified, not qualified, in our case, it's tongue-in-cheek at best kind of expression of humility, but a pure devotee understands they're not qualified. However, in addressing the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this case, what comes after this is this 10:3 verse you sent me. The personality of Godhead, Lord Nrsingadev, wants to offer him benedictions, and Prahlad says, no, thank you. As the qualification of a pure devotee, there's nothing else between us, but you're the master, I'm the servant, and that's it. So please don't ask me to accept the benediction. But that's the mood of a pure devotee. And then he says, one who has that pure devotion can be given unlimited opulence of the spiritual world and not become proud and intoxicated by that wealth, which is what happened to Prahlad. So on the one hand, he knows that he's a pure devotee. That's this 10:3. And on the other hand, he has the mood of a pure devotee, which is humility. If we receive something as a benediction from the Supreme Lord, are we going to become proud? Are we going to become possessive of that opulence and think of ourselves as now it's authorized, I'm the enjoyer of that opulence? So Prahlad is guarding against that mentality because he's a pure devotee. And it's kind of rare that a pure devotee says they're a pure devotee, but that's what he's saying here.
Maharaj?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very loud.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have a question, if I may.
Your voice is loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yes, Maharaj. My question is in connection with the beginning of the purport for the verse you chose for today. And the sentence is, one cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by studying the Vedas and offering prayers. Only by the grace of the Supreme Lord can one understand him. And I have here another verse from a different book, Sri Gaudiya Kantahar, a necklace of Vaishnava verse. And the verse is a verse which I have been reflecting upon, and still for a long time already, and still I do not understand the meaning. So I will read the verse. The Supreme Self can never be known by any amount of argument, reasoning, intelligence, or by much hearing. To those whom he chooses, however, he may reveal his personal form. This verse is from the Katha Upanishad 1:2-23. So my question to you is, in accordance with the verse I just read, what is the importance of the spiritual master in the process of Bhakti-Yoga?
Okay, the verse that you just read happens to be the same verse, the second half of the same verse that's in this purport. Katha Upanishad 1:2-23. You got it? The verse that you read from the book that you referred to is the second half of the same verse that's in this purport. 1:2-23, Katha Upanishad.
Oh, yes.
I'm telling you. So let me respond. So now you want to know
Yes.
what's the role of the spiritual master? The verse in the Upanishads doesn't necessarily indicate everything and everything because it's one verse. So when and under what circumstance will the personality of Godhead reveal himself? And that is, now comes the guru topic. What does Krishna say to Arjuna in Adi Purana? His devotee is one who is the devotee of his devotee. To get bhakti, how do you get bhakti? Krishna reveals himself to one who has the essence of bhakti. How do you get that? From a bhakta. And superlative bhakta for a neophyte bhakta or sadhaka bhakta is their instructor, the one who's teaching them bhakti, giving them bhakti, training them in bhakti. Now there's mantra guru and there's shiksha guru, and so both are gurus, and respect goes to them because that's the way that bhakti becomes awakened. That's where the guru fits into that verse. Krishna decides to reveal himself to someone who has bhakti. And how they get bhakti? One who gives them bhakti. That's where guru comes in.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you for your merciful answer. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I don't see other messages. So we're being asked, if you have a question, just speak up. It says raise hands, but I don't know. Anyone have a question so we can carry on? We have 10 minutes to go.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I have a comment. Thank you so much for the inspiring class and the importance of the devotional service. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Nice. We can thank Prahlada Maharaj because it's his message, and Prabhupada for his purport.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, my question.
Please speak up.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible, Maharaj?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Please accept my humble obeisance, Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My question is that because Jnana Marga is also described here in this particular verse. So, my question is that in in connection to Bhagavad Gita, it is said that Chaturvida Bhajante Mam, four kinds of people surrender to me, but out of them, Jnanis are the best rather than the Artharthi. So, whenever we use Prabhupada use the word Jnani, so we have different conception. Jnani means those who want to merge into the effulgence of the Lord. So which kind of Jnani they are? This is my confusion actually, right from the beginning. So when we say the Jnani are the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terms, Sanskrit terms need to be understood in terms of context.
Okay.
And so your question is a context question. What kind of Jnani is spoken of here? And it's not the merging into Brahman Jnani. There are others, those that have knowledge of transcendence, knowledge of opulence of Krishna. So it's that kind of person, one who knows, at least theoretically, knows Krishna, or theoretically knows they're not their body, and so they don't have need from Krishna for things of the body because that's not what Krishna is for. He is the source of all things. Now so bhakti can be mixed with gyan, that's Gyan Mishra Bhakti, but it's referring to the devotee, one who knows what's the source of everything. Such a person engages in bhakti. That kind of Jnani.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Obeisances. I have a question from the verse. It says that you were saying that this mentions 6 kind of activities. Out of that, dedicating results of all activities is not one of the 9 processes of bhakti, and or like specifically, I was thinking about Atma Nivedan. Would Bali Maharaja's Atma Nivedan come in the category of this, dedicating all results of your activities?
Not precisely. One can make the overlap between the two, but when the term dedicating the result of all activities, that's karma yoga. Madarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmana Brahmano Hutam, that verse, or Yad Karoshi Yadasnasi Yad Jahosi. So whatever that's karma yoga. Results dedicated to the Supreme is karma yoga. And that's not, there's an overlap with Bali Maharaj, but it's not the same. Bali Maharaj had just given everything to Krishna, not just the results. He gave everything. He gave his body-minded words to Krishna. And Krishna tied him up, or Vamana tied him up. And he had no complaint. That's not the same as giving the results to Krishna.
Yeah.
There's similarity, there's difference.
Are you saying that, Maharaj, the 9 processes which are there, they are converging into these 6 kinds of devotional services?
No, I'm not saying that. It's just a different list.
So that means 9 plus or whatever the overlapping, except that, and plus whatever the rest is. So that becomes the more than 9. Is that what we should understand?
No, that's not how I understand it anyways. Maybe some other speaker would say yes. That's not how I understand it. My understanding is there are different models. This particular list of 6 is not meant to be an exhaustive list. It's a particular list that Prahlad is speaking. And it's an important list because Prahlad's speaking, because he's teaching the way of pure devotional service. It's about the list of 9 is our standard list that our acharyas refer us to. Rupa Goswami in particular refers us to again and again, the 9 processes of bhakti. So that we take that as our primary list, but let's just take another example of this. In chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, there's 8 material elements, and in chapter 13, there's 24 material elements. So how do the two compare? It's kind of what it's a similar question. It's just a different model. And you can say some of the ones that are in the 24, they're subsets of what's in the 8. It's a different model, just keeping it really simple rather than how does this connect with that kind of thing. You can do that, but it's just a different model. These are 6 that Prahlad considers especially important to come to the Paramahamsa stage. Devotional service, so one can understand the essence of devotional service. These 6 are particularly important. And 2 of them are not in the list of 9.
Yeah.
And there's items in the list of 9 that are not in these 6. So it's just 2 different models. That's how I look at it. And that our standard model is the 9, not just because the list is longer, but because our acharyas make more emphasis on that list than this one.
So Maharaj, there is also, because since you mentioned that there are devotees who have achieved perfection just by doing one devotional service. So is it like one is good enough, or we have to do all 9? Or when they are doing one, they do all other 8 as well?
The way that Prabhupada consistently, I've so many times heard, you probably have also, all of them, 8 of them, 7 of them, 2 of them, or even 1 of them. And of the so many, most important is Shravanam, because the others flow from Shravanam. So let's say if one is doing deity worship or offering prayers, it's the fruit of Shravanam. They may be really, really, really into one of the other 8, but it flows from Shravanam. So it's the most important, but any one of them with strong emphasis, the essence of bhakti can be achieved. Does that answer your question?
Okay. In the chat, there is a question.
Okay, I don't see it. Can you read it? Can you see it?
If Krishna, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for wonderful class. If Krishna is eager to take us back to Godhead, why doesn't he give pure devotional service to us easily? Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu freely distributed mercy and gave pure devotional service to everyone without discrimination when he was on the planet. We can say that he wants us to surrender by free will, but he can easily attract us more than Maya, so that by our free will only, we will surrender to Krishna.
Well, he's trying and we're resisting. Free will gives us the choices. He's attracting and we're distracted. And that's our free will choice, or the combination of so many lifetimes of free will choice that's away from him. The obstacle is not from his side. He is all attractive. He is inviting us. He is wishing, please take it, please take it. And we'll say, well, I'm trying. Maybe later. Or whatever our from the heart responses, our mouth may say something else, like what this question is saying. But at the heart level, there's very strong attachment to independent enjoyment. Therefore, the process is slow. Krishna can, but he doesn't interfere with free will. He's attracting. He's freely giving. Even when Lord Chaitanya was freely giving, not everyone accepted. He was freely giving, and not everyone accepted. There's a number of examples. Persons that just didn't accept. Even some of the sons just coming to mind, even some of the sons of Advaita Acharya, they're not even mentioned because they're asara or useless. And that's sons of Advaita Acharya. Sons of Advaita Acharya that didn't accept his mercy and didn't accept Lord Chaitanya's mercy and became useless. So there's not a whole lot about the useless ones in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but there are. They just didn't accept. As attractive and merciful as Lord Chaitanya made himself available, please take it. The answer was no. So the obstacle's not on his side, it's on our side. And I'm looking at the clock and bell rang. The 7 o'clock bell rang. So what do we do?
Maharaj,
Yeah.
Maharaj, just let me thank you for telling me that the verse I chose for you to explain it to me, yes, it is the same verse found in the purport.
You can Google it and you'll find the word for word and the whole thing. In addition to Katha Upanishad 1-23, verbatim, the same verse is in Mundaka Upanishad 3:2-3. I mean, I don't think diacritics will work here. I could send you, here's what I'll do. I'll send to Vanamali Pandit the verse and word for word in the translation, and you can get it from him. How's that?
Oh, wonderful, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we're done, yes?
As long as if anybody doesn't have any questions.
I have one question if you have time.
Okay.
The purport it is said that Bhakti-Yoga or Buddhi-Yoga executed with intelligence and full knowledge is the only successful method for going back to Godhead. So what happened, Maharaj? I come across with some people and they are interested in the services in India when I was there. But they were little illiterate actually, not able to analytically and systematically study the Vedas. So or Bhagavad Gita. So is it that, Maharaj, when we say knowledge in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, so is it like Tene Brahmaruda Adi Kave, which is imparted to Brahma? So for those people, the knowledge will be imparted by Guru, those who can't read like that Brahmana in South India. So how we can understand like, and how we can encourage them to read, because they are illiterate, can't read Prabhupada books. Yeah, so how?
Your question, I seem to get the essence, but it's kind of all over the place, so I'm not really clear what you're asking. Let me take a stab at responding.
Yeah.
How do we encourage people who are not literate to come to the stage of Bhakti-Yoga, in short? Because they're not literate, they're not inclined to read like the illiterate Brahmin. But we know that Buddhi is important, so how do we encourage them? That's your question.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone can hear. And even that illiterate Brahmin, the point that he heard, although he's illiterate, I mean, not like exceptionally literate, but literate enough to know that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna. And that was enough for him. He looks at the picture of Parthasarathi and he's crying because the Supreme Lord is taking the position of servant of his devotee. So that's bhakti. And that's the essence of the Bhagavad Gita's message. So illiterate people can learn by hearing. Here's a method that Bhakti-Vinod Thakur used. I learned this from studying his life. In parts of Bengal, he did lots of village preaching. And that's where the Nama Hatha model came. Now it's in our society, it's Bhakti Vriksha, but it's Nama Hatha in Bhakti-Vinod Thakur's time and language. And people weren't literate. So he did songs that told the philosophy, and they like to sing songs. Bengalis like to sing songs. They learn the songs. And that way they learn the philosophy. And then he took the philosophy and in really short little pieces, little chewable bites of pieces, he taught it to the village elder, and then the village elder taught it to the people. So if the not so literate individuals that you are speaking of can find somebody that's literate, that is able to hear and understand, then they can explain to those that are not so literate. So having association, sadhu sangha, is not optional. It's not just important, it's not optional. So such persons, if they have association of sadhu, then they can make progress. And the sadhus are the ones that are literate. And they kindly and compassionately share to those that are not so literate. I mean, we're in the West, they're literate people, but they're ignorant literate people. And that's a little more difficult even than illiterate people, because they think they already know stuff. And it's harder to teach people that think they already know stuff. But it's the same principle. We have to be sadhu-like in their company, whether they're literate or not, and give the message and live it by example. That's how you help those people. I think we're done, and I'm going to have to excuse myself anyways because there's another evening class I'm supposed to.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj, for your kind association and